Hi, welcome back to Far From Eden. It's good to have you. Before I forget, she's reminding me to ask you to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Really appreciate it. That's Lola, my little dog, because we're a cliche. I saw the video that I am going to show you and comment on here in a minute this past week in my recreational time. And I didn't think I was going to cover it. I just wanted to watch it. And it is about a 53-year-old woman who has gotten divorced, aka blown up her family, because they're so much better. Like the grass is greener on the other side, and isn't it wonderful? And there are so many videos like that of women doing that and then almost bragging about it. But this particular one, this woman got me so angry. And I did something that I'm going to confess a lot of women do that is frustrating to men and makes it sometimes difficult to deal with us. And that is, I took it personally. And I think you guys are going to see why. And I think that some certain things in my life have enabled me to speak more on this particular topic that this lady goes into. And let's get into it. I'm going to try to remain as calm as I can, but I really want to show you this. And, a couple of different channels have covered it because this woman is just too perfect of a stereotype and too ridiculous. And she has no self-awareness at all. And so, without further ado, let's see. You guys seen her yet? Right? I've seen her covered on at least 2 or 3 channels. They just, if you wait long enough, people in general, but definitely women, will tell you the truth, even if that's not what they're intending to do, even through their deception. It's a way, like, even a lie tells a lot of truth if you know how to listen for it. So yeah, she's got the crazy eyes just getting started, but here we go.
It's the first week that I am commuting into the city as an apartment dweller.
Fellas, welcome back to the channel. Today's story is one all men need to see. An entitled 53-year-old ex-wife ruins her marriage of 24 years and instantly regrets it. We'll dive into what led to the breakdown of this long-term marriage, why she thought it was a good idea, and the immediate regrets that followed. If you're ready for some eye-opening insights, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Let's dive in.
Divorcing in your 50s? Here's what you need to know about my first date. And just to back up, if you haven't met me, I was married for 24 years. I'm 53, and I've been on my own for the last 2 years. I've been talking about my divorce on here for the last couple of weeks. Take a little break from the...
Why does she think anyone wants to hear this? Who does she imagine her audience is, other than the people who are red-pilled and can see what she's doing and are basically mocking it and are just shocked at the audacity of the whole thing? And the only thing I could think of was it's other women who have done the same thing to their lives. Imagine being 53 years old, having had a marriage for 24 years, and you treat it this flippantly. I stand by this. This woman was never a wife. She may have gotten government married. She may have called herself a wife. She may have had a man that she called herself a husband, but this woman was never a wife. What in the heck does marriage even mean to this woman? She's treating it so flippantly, and she's trying to behave like she's just so fabulous. And doesn't everybody want to be her? The level of delusion is off the charts with this one. And because I've seen this video and I've seen her lack of character, when we get further along, I have no reason to hold back on these other things, because sometimes people will reveal themselves and you just go, oh, that's how you are. But the thing is that she's not the only one like this. This is how, this is not uncommon. It's not uncommon. They're blowing up marriages where there are children and decades. And I'm not saying that it makes it okay if it's only been 6 years or 10 years. It's not. Also think, while she's making these videos and they're sending them out into the universe for everyone to see, she has children that can see this. How embarrassing. How embarrassing. Anyway. Oh.
From the deep stuff and talk about something fun and silly. So, like I said, I moved out a little over 2 years ago, waited to get on the apps. And when I did, you know, they ask you, are you interested in short-term, long-term, marriage? I forget what all the different options are. It depends on the apps. So I was like, I am upside down right now. I want to go out and meet people, but I am not relationship material. Like,
okay. I am upside down right now. I am not relationship material. Basically, she started out, get on the app. She doesn't even say dating apps because it does sound ridiculous. The apps, like everyone's on them. Like, it's fine. No, it's fine. Of course I'm on them. Like, you should have grandbabies. Anyway, she says she's not looking for anything serious at that point, that she's not relationship material. What's the matter with her? Like, how is it okay? Also, the other, and I think it's an excuse. I think what she wants is to find out how many men she can get to want her. How many men, I think that's what it's about. They get to this point where they're like, I need to go and find out how many men want me, and continuously have a different man choosing me, because, you know, she's going to pretend like, oh, they want me all the time and I'm just so desirable. Because these women refuse to settle into that next chapter of their lives. It's not about being disappointed in her husband or being angry at her husband or unsatisfied because of her husband. It's really not that. She thinks it was that, probably based on the reasons women file for divorce. She probably thinks that, but I say she's hit the wall, and women don't take kindly to that. And it's like they have to go out and prove to somebody that they're still desirable, like they're 25, rather than say, I'm 53, I have these older children, I assume, you know, sort of almost grown up children, a husband I've been with for a long time, and now we're very much friends, you know, because after decades of marriage, yeah, there's going to be physical intimacy still, but you've really settled into, you know, this friendship. It should be just very familiar. And they'd say boring because they don't value the time put in. They don't value that level of comfort you come to create with your spouse. Instead, it's boring and they have to prove something. And I will also tell you, and I have not heard one woman talk about this, and maybe you guys have, but menopause, perimenopause and menopause. Around 50, sometimes before, sometimes after, you're going to have a period of time, sometimes up to a decade, of perimenopause that's like before menopause, and then menopause, where it all ends and you're no longer, you know, having your monthly cycle. Hormones go crazy during that time. And I look at the amount of women who file for divorce, especially here in the last 5-10 years at this age or around this age. And I think, I think there's something to that. You've got crazy hormones. You've got the whole Disney princess complex. I think I deserve this and I deserve that and I should be happy. And happy means desirable like you're 25. Think about it. She has an older daughter who's like 20. Then she's competing with her on the mark. Like, it's insane and it's embarrassing. And I can't believe we live in a society where women like this, who should be preparing to be grandmothers, are rejecting that whole role and treating it like they're 25 looking for, like it's brand new and I'm just getting started. And it's like, no, you're 53. You need to be wrapping it up. You should by now have some wisdom and some character. We're not going to see that from this one.
Like, do not date me for a relationship. And technically, I'm in a relationship now. I'm in a new relationship now. I don't even think I'm don't tell him, but I don't even think I'm relationship material right now. Because, you think you'd be like done with that phase of, okay, I've found myself, and no. I put all my pictures and all of my thick.
What does it mean, find yourself? I know women say it, but how ridiculous is it? What do you mean, find yourself? I don't think they know what it means. If I were to ask her, and I totally would, I don't think she can even say it, explain it. It means nothing. It doesn't mean anything. It's an excuse for screwing up over and over again. Well, I hadn't found myself yet. I'm pretty conservative. I'm pretty old-fashioned. And I'm sorry, but men have who they are and women have who they are. And we have pretty obvious roles. If you just look at each of our biology, the biology of a man and the biology of woman, and like look at them, imagine we weren't humans and we were just looking at humans as if to study another species. We would be like, oh, well, it's clear what everybody's supposed to be doing here. And we certainly wouldn't say that an infertile woman whose children are grown belongs doing this business. And I know, I understand. I am like a dinosaur thinking about this kind of stuff. But answer me this. If it's like, well, that's her choice and that's her freedom and da-da-da-da-da. Yeah, well, okay, how's it working for everybody? How's it working for her kids? How's it working for her ex-husband? How's it going to work for her? We all know these things don't normally pan out. These things don't normally lead to everlasting happiness, because that's a Disney princess dream. We were just talking about that on Sunday. But the level of just being so lacking all self-awareness, I'm speechless.
And weathered cuteness. I am a little weathered, but that's not what we're talking about. I put short term. I just want to meet people to have a good time. Like, I am not here for something serious. If you're looking for a girlfriend, keep going, because I'm not that person. This was a couple of years ago. And I matched with this guy, and he's like super cute, tall, interesting, funny. Like, he just seems great. And we start chatting in the app, and then we move over to text. And I'm like, okay, this guy seems kind of cool. He's in town. He doesn't live in my town. He was in town just for a couple of days. And
does anyone want to tell her? I don't think you're going to have to convince him not to have a relationship. I don't think you understand. He's only in town for a couple of days and he matched with you on an app. Also, is anyone going to tell her that guys will match every single chick waiting for a hit? It doesn't mean you're special. It just means that men, even high value men on apps, don't get the amount of feedback that females do. I learned this from watching Red Pill content, some Better Bachelor content. So and listening to you guys about the lack of feedback and just crickets that you hear, if you're an average man, or even high value men don't get a whole lot, but women do, because men will just swipe whichever way is yes, on every chick, hoping one of them gives them the time of day. And this chick did. But she thinks she's special. And she's like, oh my God, don't ask me for a relationship. Like, lady, no one's beaten down the door. But nice job trying to convince us all. He's only in town for a couple of days. You know what that's called? Back in my day, not that I did it, but I know it was called a booty call. Kind of. It's not in the middle of the night, but come on. We know. I mean, how is it different from being an escort? Anyway.
And again, I have not gone on a date. It's 24 years, okay? Since like dirt was created. So he tells me his first name and I'm like, oh, what do you do? And then he gives me his full name. So he's like, oh, I'm a retired athlete. So I'm like, okay, am I supposed to know who this guy is? I'm not a sports girl. I don't know shit about sports. This guy is like a semi-famous retired NBA player. So I'm standing next to my girlfriends. I'm like, what do I do? Do I go out with this guy? Like, they were like, you go out with him just for the plot. Like, we are in it for the plot. Like, we are in it for the stories. So I'm like, all right, this is my jump into life era, because literally I've crawled myself out of my most darkest moments, leaving my marriage, because it's brutal leaving a marriage.
Don't you love when they talk about how hard it is for them to blow everyone else's lives up? We should just all take a moment and feel sorry for this woman because of her darkest time. I mean, I hear from a lot of the men, and the lack of empathy this woman has. But it gets worse.
So this is like the fun part. So he was in town for a celebrity golf tournament. Go and I meet him in the lobby of his hotel, and we agree we're going to go out to dinner around the corner. He picks a place and everything. So we go. He was hot. He was really attractive and charming and dynamic. And like, he's retired and he's gone into other business ventures. He's got a podcast. Like, he's got a great personality. So, it was a great day. We had so much fun. We then went back to the lobby of the hotel. Now there's like all these players there. So there was like a group of, I think, 4 like wildly famous retired players. They were at a table kind of talking to each other. They weren't even looking up. Like, they weren't trying to engage with anyone because they're probably so used to people approaching them. And then we're at the bar, and other famous players are with us talking.
She's saying all of that. It's called, when you're studying, I've learned this, when you're studying like body language and not body language, behavior, appeal to an authority. And it's basically saying, I'm really valuable because he has a podcast and he has all these business ventures, and how many times is she going to say he's a retired athlete? How many times is she going to talk about the famous people that were around her? What are your values? Where are your values? Why do you value being around all these, famous, and he's really attractive? And the reason women say that, and I know you men here, you guys here, I need to explain this to you. What you hear is, oh, they always want the Chads and the Tyrones. And I have a feeling this was a Tyrone, just statistic-wise. But I think why do they want that attractive man, right? Why do they want that? Is it because I know for you guys, you're like, well, duh, it's because they're attracted to him. It's not that simple, because we ladies, we like to make things complicated. It's status. She is bragging to us that this attractive man wanted her. It's the fact that a man that other women would find attractive chose her. Now, no one's going to tell her he chose everybody else on the app too. And you're the one that was available, right? But she thinks it makes her special. She thinks this makes her special and valuable. She does not think it makes her special to be a wife who endures, who understands for better or for worse. She doesn't think it makes her special to be a mother that prioritizes the marriage from which the children came. But she's special because some retired NBA guy took her to dinner while he was out of town for a golf tournament, and then there were famous people around. This lady was never a wife. She was never well suited to be one. Her character isn't there. You have to be a wife before you get married. It's a type of person you are. You cannot, if you stand up and you promise to love someone and like be there better or for worse, you have to have the character that can back that up. She does not.
Us hanging out, I got to see a groupie in real time. There was a girl like in her 20s that was hanging on to one of them, probably 60. And I mean, I don't know, for all, I could have looked like the groupie, right? So maybe I'm the groupie. I wasn't though, I didn't know he was famous. And he's like, do you want to go upstairs? I don't know if it's gonna make you guys mad. I went upstairs. I did not sleep with him, but it was hot and sexy and fun. And we would talk on the phone and text and like we're Facebook friends. And he would have been a lot of fun to hang out with for a while. And it was an adventure. And I kind of loved that that was my first date. And so I'm sharing this to say.
She said he would have been a lot of fun to hang out with for a while. Then why didn't you? Oh, because women are the gatekeepers of sex, and men are the gatekeepers of any type of relationship. So it sounds like she couldn't even get into a situationship. Embarrassing.
Like there's no playbook. There's no rules. There's no playbook. There's no playbook on when you start. Do you wait? Do you not wait? Do you jump right in? Do you jump into a relationship? Do you wait 700 years? I don't know. I'm still figuring that out. 2 years later.
Pardon me. This is my playbook. Just showing you guys that's my playbook. I guess maybe she doesn't have a playbook. That's fine. But do you see how much worse it makes your life? Because there really should be a playbook. And one of the keep your promises for starters when you get married. No, there's no playbook for what you're doing because what you're doing is wrong. Can you tell I don't like her?
But it was a good entree into the dating world. And I continued to date like just super casually for months. And I met like great guys and had a ton of fun. It was only really in 2023 when I decided that, okay, maybe I'm going to give some of these guys a chance and focus and like maybe try to have relationships with some of these guys. That's when everything went left. That's when literally when it got terrible. All of my heartache and trauma and all of the bad stuff was when I started to entertain dating seriously. When it was fun and casual.
Because you got rejected? All of your trauma and heartache and da. What about the man you divorced? What about the children of that? Look, divorce is painful, man. I am tired of people treating like, oh, well, it's better for the kids that they can't be happy. And I'll get the flip happy. Okay? Stop being a baby. Buck up. And figure out what your issue is and get happy. It's nobody else's responsibility. And nobody else around you is perfect.
And I was in the streets just having a good time. And no, I was not sleeping with all these people.
In the streets, just having a good time. What did I say? Listen closely and they tell you the truth. You were in the streets just having a good time? Well, I guess that's what you're for then.
It was so fun. So if that's the vibe that you want, like if you're thinking like, I just want to go out there and have a good time, if you low expectations, but there could be a lot of fun adventures waiting for you. And don't go out to somebody's hotel room. Like that was probably that was stupid of me. Luckily he was a good guy. I had shared my location with all of my friends, so they knew where I was. They were checking with me all the time. Oh, and then here's the best part. A couple of weeks later, out of nowhere, I'm working. I'm in the middle of my work day. He's texting me. He sends me a video, and it's a video. It's video. There's no clothes. Thanks. And I'm like, it's dark in the room. Like, I don't think that's a fresh video. So I asked, I do not send it to any of my friends. I was respectful. She's classy. So I asked my friends, I'm like, I think this is like pre-owned. And they were like, save it to your camera roll and then pull it up and it's going to give you the original date. That motherfucker sent me a pre-owned D video. It wasn't even for me.
Don't you wish at this moment in time the late, great Kevin Samuels was alive? Because if you're like me and you've watched so much of his content, you can almost hear what he would say. And I feel like he would say, well, you found your level. Like, why are you surprised that he would send you that, lady? This is what you've demonstrated you are.
So that's my first date, a retired NBA player who I had a really great time with, who didn't murder me, thankfully, who sent me a certified pre-owned a Rick video from 1 year prior. I don't know if that gives you hope or terror or just makes you laugh. So we'll go back to the sad stuff later. But right now, I needed to talk about something fun, okay? It's not all bad.
You know what's exhausting? Hearing women like this 53-year-old talking about their ex-husbands and the wonderful dating world they threw themselves into after tanking a 24-year marriage. It's like watching a car crash in slow motion, and you just can't look away, but you really want to. She destroyed something solid, a 2-decade-plus marriage. For what? For the thrill of dating again? Chasing love? Or let's be honest, chasing after shiny things and chads who won't ever take her seriously. Let's break this down. Does she actually think she's a catch? She's out here in her 50s, fresh from a long-term marriage, thinking these Chad types are genuinely interested in anything beyond the surface. Spoiler alert, they aren't. At her age, with all the baggage that comes from not just life but her own choices, she's not a catch for these guys. She's entertainment. She's recreational. They're not in it for the long haul with someone who threw away stability, and if she thinks otherwise, she's living in a fantasy. What's even more mind-boggling is how shallow the whole situation is. You'd think after 24 years of marriage, there'd be some kind of wisdom that comes with age, but nope. She's out here falling for the same old tricks that younger women fall for, getting caught up with men who aren't serious about her. It's like she didn't learn a thing. And now, she's back in the dating pool, constantly going on about her ex-husband and these new relationships. Honestly, who's got the patience for that? She's 53, living in the past, but chasing a future with guys who couldn't care less about her beyond the superficial. It's sad, really, because she could have stayed in her lane, appreciated what she had, and avoided this mess. But instead, she let the red flags in herself meet the red flags in the men she's now dating. It's like a red flag parade, and she's leading the charge. The reality is this: the Chad she's after aren't going to give her what she's seeking. They see her for what she is now, not for what she was when she was married, and they're not sticking around. Eventually, the dating market will humble her, if it hasn't already. And when it does, she'll be left wondering what she lost chasing after something that was never real.
Divorcing.
He is right. And to answer his question, yes, she thinks she's a catch. She thinks she's so amazing and her husband never appreciated it. I really think that these type of women think that they're finally going to get their happiness. They're finally going to find themselves. They're finally going to get what they deserve and finally be appreciated. Right? And time again, we see, and I don't know what her life was, but she reveals later that she's from New York. Like, she lived in Westchester. That is a upscale neighborhood, okay? This tells me you had a man who provided for you and the children, and no, she doesn't value any of that. And over again, I hear men valuing stability, valuing commitment, valuing character. I see the men valuing those things far more than the women do. It's just, where are the women? Women used to hold other women accountable. Women used to keep people minding their P's and Q's on the cultural level, right? Under the headship of men. Because I know that men are not tyrannical, oppressive, evil people. I know that most of them are quite benevolent. So it's a blessing to be under the headship of men, whether it's your father or your husband, etc., or even just in general, having that respect for men. Women used to make sure that everybody was behaving themselves, on a cultural level, because they didn't want the 304s being 304s, because that would enable the men who have less self-control. That would enable those men to play around and not prioritize marriage at the level that they should. It would bring the whole culture down if we had a bunch of 304s just giving it away. But in the 20th century, for sure, even though it started well before that in the mid 19th century, we have a movement that made women forget all about that, forget all about those responsibilities and duties, and act like duties and responsibilities are bad and we shouldn't have them. When in reality, having a duty to do something and a responsibility means you're needed, means you're important. It's not a bad thing. But we sure fell for the idea that it is. And then you got women chasing shiny things like this instead of valuing things that hold everybody together and actually do bring contentment.
In your 50s, here's what you need to know about my second date. That time I tried to be an F girl at 51. You know what an F boy is, right? I don't want to say it because I don't want to get banned. He's like a good time guy. This is my attempt to do that at 51. It was a fail with this particular one. This is the story of my second date, which was a Tinder date. As a refresher, I am 53 years old. A couple of years ago, I got onto the dating apps after leaving my 24-year marriage. I generally will be talking about more serious things. We're not talking about that now. We're not talking about that now. We're talking about a Tinder date. We're talking about my second date ever since not dating since the invention of dirt. I set up my profile as I am only interested in short term. I wrote it out. I wrote, I was married for over 20 years. I've recently moved out and I'm just interested in just meeting people and having fun. Matched with this guy. We spoke on the phone. We had really good chemistry. Decided we're going to meet at a restaurant a couple of towns over. The night of our date, it's torrential rain, downpour. It was one of those, like when rain comes down so strong, like you could barely see. So I get to the area and I'm like, I can't even find this freaking restaurant. And I'm texting him. I'm like, I don't know where it is. Pull over. He's like, I think I see your car. So I'm like, well, you're going to need to come and park this car for me. Because I'm a great driver, but I'm a horrible parker. And I'm a horrible parallel parker. And if you're going to layer that into the dark of night and torrential rain, like forget it. That car, you might just leave that car on the street. So he comes out, he parks the car for me. That's the way that was our first in person. I was like, hey, poor crazy rain. I'm like, park this car. Ended up having a great date, chemistry, laughing.
Strong and independent. Can't park the car.
Really, really cool. Like it was a fun date. I drop him off at his apartment. It was like down the street. So he gets in my car, I drop him off because that's safe. Look at these safe choices I'm making here. And then we continued to talk on the phone. And then we couldn't really get our next date off the ground. But then he was mad at me for not being available for him all the time. And, I told him oh, I'm available next week, Tuesday and Thursday. And then when he finally got around to deciding oh, okay, let's go out on Thursday. I was like, I can't. I have other plans. Then so he was like, is it a date? Is it a date? He got really mad at me that it was another date. He was like, I don't understand why you're going on this other date when there's real chemistry and connection here. Because I was like, look, I really like you. I want to keep going out and hanging out. He's like, but if you're saying you really like me, why would you go on a date with someone else, etc. And I'm like, motherfucker, I told you I'm not ready for a relationship. And I just met you. So mad at me. So mad at me.
I don't believe her. It doesn't sound like the character of a lot of men, unless she's being really shady and almost trying to make him jealous. I don't think for one second we're getting the full story here, because this is all about Please believe that I am so desirable that all these men want me. They want me so badly that they're mad at me. Lady, you doth protest too much, methinks.
I don't understand. Cancel it, cancel it. And I was like, I'm not canceling it. Fast forward to the next day, the guy I was going to go out with gets COVID. So he's like, I can't go out. So I lie to this other guy and I say, the next morning I was like, all right, I canceled the date. This is a lie. I did not cancel the date. The guy fucking got COVID. So he's like, well, it's, no, you made it clear that you don't want to focus on me. And we stopped speaking, right? This is after one date that this motherfucker flips out on me. And like maybe a week or two later, he texts me. But I feel like we really had a strong connection. Let's, try this again. And I was like, you were really mean to me. Like, you really hurt my feelings. Like, you were like straight up rude to me. Like, he's like, okay, then. And then that's it. I don't hear from him. Another week goes by. I get another text from him. Look, I was thinking about this. Like, I think we really had something. So I think, you said you were interested in me. I'm interested in you. Like, let's get together and let's try this one more time. I was with one of my friends and I read it to him and he was like, oh no. He's like, you tell him it's a no for me. So I literally text back, it's a no for me. And then he writes back, okay, fine. Fast forward, I don't hear from this guy. He pops up again. I want to say like a year later.
This reminds me of when I was 12 years old and I would be talking to my other 12-year-old little girlfriends and we'd be talking about boys and stuff. I mean, not with, obviously not going out on dates or whatever, but just talking about boys. And, like my mother would be like, I can't, you sound ridiculous and I can't even keep track of what you're talking about. This woman is playing games. And I think that the reason the guy was frustrated with her is because she was playing games. And I think this is all just speculation on my part based on a lot of experience listening to you guys and learning about these types of women. I think that he probably kept messaging her even though she was playing games to see if she would be a little bit more respectful and a little bit more agreeable, because men are desperate out there. They're desperate for someone who'll even acknowledge them or say yes to them. Even some of the ones that the average man would look at and say, wow, he's a Chatter or Tyrone, but it's really not. Look, these women are looking at the like 9s and 10s. They have their sights set on that. So you can be a 7 or an 8 guy and you're still going to struggle to even get a date, to get any kind of attention. So yeah, a lot of the men out there scrape the bottom of the barrel, so I guess she's the other way. Because of desperation. That's why that's why I always tell you guys, like, it's not worth it. Look, this is just a nightmare. She's already talked about, well, that was safe. That was a safe choice. This is a false accusation looking for a place to happen. She has her trauma and her this and her that. She's already victim mentality. It's not safe. It's really not. In any way, shape, or form. At least this one can't get pregnant, but, other risks out there. And just your peace of mind. This is not peaceful. This woman is the opposite of peace. She's playing games. She's all over the place. There's a complete lack of character. The host of Men Only talked about how shallow it is, and he's right. He's absolutely right. God.
He pops up on Hinge. I'm like, aren't we done with this? And he messages me and he's like, I remember we really hit it off. We had chemistry. And I'm like, yeah, I don't remember it that way. Like, you were a dick to me. And he's like, okay. And then he blocked me on Hinge. But there's always a silver lining. So this guy sent me the wildest D-pic that you will ever see in all of your time on this earth. Did not ask for it. Did not even give him the impression that I would want something like that. So I don't have like a collection. This is not a thing with me. But I got them early on. Actually, I think I got them. I think I got all 3 in the same month, fall of 2022.
She doesn't have a collection. Well, lady, do you know how many I have? 0. You don't have a collection. You have 3. I think that's plenty. That's plenty. It's just the fact that she's dating men who are doing that tells you everything about who those guys are, what they want, and how they see her. And she has no idea. No idea.
It was a big time for unsolicited D pictures, but this guy was, I'm not even kidding. Doesn't even look real. Doesn't even look real. Like you would think it was photoshopped. It was like a injury. You could have an injury from that. However, I've gotten so much entertainment value out of that picture. It's in my hidden folder. You know how you have like a hidden folder? Do you know about your hidden folder on your phone? It's where I keep all of my artifacts from when I was in the streets. Everyone always has the same reaction. Like everyone's like, and then they go, is that real? So he did give me a lot. It was entertainment value alone was worth it, but it fucking sucked to have some guy like that you barely met who you kind of liked a little bit, like go off on you for no reason. The lesson, tonight's lesson is be prepared for chaos on the apps. Protect yourself. Probably don't let a guy park your car and probably don't get into the car. And again, don't follow my safety advice, but this is just a preview of what to expect. Don't mean to terrorize you, maybe inspire you for some fun adventures and some good tales. Like I'll tell this to my grandchildren one day. Be like, guess what?
Oh my gosh. Okay. There were two things in this video that set me off the most. And you know what? This is just the first part. We haven't even got to the part that set me off the most. Tell it to her grandchildren one day. You know what you should do with your grandchildren? Maybe read them a fairy tale. Don't tell them about this. This is terrible. This is terrible. I can't believe that this woman is probably going to have grandchildren. Well, if she's taught her children to, have families, but I can't believe that this woman's going to have grandchildren and I am not. And I get it. Yeah, I'm personalizing and I'm personalizing this part and I'm personalizing the next part where I don't know if it's right after this, but it's coming up here in a little bit.
Grandma did when she was, but then I'm going to talk like that too. So that's my lesson for tonight.
You ever see someone make a decision and just shake your head, wondering what were they thinking? That's exactly what comes to mind when you look at this 53-year-old, post-divorce, back out in the dating world like she's got time to waste. I mean, what is she even doing at her age? Shouldn't she be passing down lessons to the next generation, sharing wisdom about life and relationships? Instead, she's out here making the same mistakes as women half her age. Here's the thing. She's already had her turn. She had 24 years of marriage, a quarter of a century. You'd think by now she'd have something to show for it, like a bit of self-awareness or maybe even peace with what she had. But nope, she's dating again, chasing after guys who only see her as a temporary fix. And let's
Yeah.
be honest, she's a red flag meeting more red flags. It's not even just the guys she's picking. She's just as bad as them. The worst part is, she probably thinks this is all fun and games. But let's be real. Women make some of the worst decisions when it comes to this. It's not about having fun at her age. It's about respect. And that respect goes both ways, towards herself and towards the men she's with. Instead, she's jumping from guy to guy, thinking she's going to find something meaningful, but all she's doing is adding to her baggage. Let's not sugarcoat it. She's never going to meet anyone who takes her seriously, and deep down, she probably knows that. She's going to keep getting.
She doesn't know it. She doesn't know it. This woman is in full-on denial. She really believes she's fabulous. And when she wants to, she'll have this beautiful, wonderful, perfect relationship. I think that's what she thinks right now. I don't disagree with much that the men-only host says, but I can say, as a woman reading a woman, she thinks she's fabulous. I think there might be a little fear that she won't find what she's looking for, but I think right away she just says, no, because this is what I want and this is how it should be, therefore it will be. And I'm like, that is not how it works. But I will also say, with all the red flags that the men-only host was saying, yes, you can see the red flags here, but you would have been able to see, I hate to say this because I don't want to put any blame on her ex-husband at all. He didn't know. You know what I mean? Women are good at faking it. Women are good at faking character. And men are afraid to probe for character. to really find out, to really vet the woman. And if she had been vetted for character, I think she would have been found wanting before she was married. You just would have had to ask certain questions that are pretty uncomfortable for men to ask, especially, 24 years ago, that was the year 2000. I remember the year 2000. He wouldn't have felt like it was okay for him to question things like that. But dang, he should have. He should have, because he would have known she's gonna hate the questions, but guess what? She's good. That means don't marry her.
Being run through by dudes who see her as nothing more than a temporary distraction. And
Yeah.
can we talk about the kids for a second? Imagine being her child and seeing your mom out there on TikTok, parading her dating life like it's something glamorous. Those kids are going to need therapy just to process seeing their mom out here like she's still 23 instead of 53. It's all about respect. Respecting the men who actually tried to give her attention and stability in the past, respecting her own age and life stage, and respecting the next generation enough to pass down real lessons instead of setting an example of what not to do. At the end of the
Amen.
day, it's not about having fun. It's about making responsible choices. Like they say, you can't eat the cake and leave it full. She lost out by not giving enough attention and respect to the men who probably tried to care for her in the past. Now she's reaping the consequences.
Divorcing in your 50s? Here's what you need to know about dating in our demographic. You've been warned. I'm 53 years old. I was married for 24.
She's got a little different energy right here. She doesn't seem quite as pumped about everything, not quite as confident. I noticed that right away. But I don't think she's aware that it's obvious.
Years, and I've been on my own for the last couple of years. I'm not on the dating apps now. I'm not actively dating. I'm in a relationship, but I've managed to collect enough dating stories that you would think that I dated for 20 years. And, people are going to be broken in different ways. So I met this guy early into my dating. It was on Tinder.
Excuse me real quick. Sorry. Well, why would your heart be broken in so many different ways if you were out there dating, having fun, just collecting stories? Huh? Could it be that you really did want some more from these men and they didn't? I don't believe, because how are you out there having fun and you're collecting all these dating stories, but then afterwards you're like, oh, the heartbreak, all these different ways. Why? Well, I've got a couple reasons. One, what I said before, that maybe she wanted more from some of them and they were like, no. Or two, women really aren't cut out to sleep around. It does create a trauma-like response in us. You men know it. And if you're new, if the blue pill part hasn't really rubbed off yet, think about it. You know in deep down that that's how it is. You know when there's a woman has a really high body count, you know what baggage is that? Why is it baggage? And why isn't it the same for men? Because it's not. Look at how much less of her there is. And I can't even explain to you what I mean by that, but I think you guys know. There is less of her here because she has given it away to tons and tons and tons of basically losers. And I'm not saying that men are losers. I am saying that the men who she chose, sending her these pics and stuff and just looking for a quick fix, she chose those men. And really, there aren't going to be any serious men of character that take a 53-year-old who blew up a 24-year-long marriage, because they see that and they have probably been through it themselves. And they're like, no, you're like the ex-wife that did it to me. I already know your value system before I've even talked to you. By knowing that, that's what the men will know. So she does not realize. They don't realize how you guys think and what you already know. They really have no idea. But partly it's because they don't care to know. They just want what they want, and they're mad when they don't get it, and they're victims when they don't get it.
I was banned from Tinder. I can only speak to Tinder in really the fall of 2022. And I think there were some good guys on there, and I might have used them all up. High quality guy, attorney, lived in my area. We went on a whole bunch of dates, and he knew that I was not looking for anything serious. So he said, do you want to come to my law firm's holiday party? So I was like, of course, sure. Asked him, what's the dress code? And he was like, holiday festive. So I'm like, okay, great. So I end up wearing like an off-the-shoulder black sweater dress, but it's like skin tight to the knee. So I had like the lashes, my hair looked really good. I had the smoky eye, I had the right like dangly jewelry, the dress, like everything was good. I was taking pictures, I was sending them to my friends. I was like, look how I look good. It was exciting.
There's a filter on that. Does she think that's what she looks like? Because there is a good filter on that for the skin. Expensive older call girl madam type.
Again, I hadn't dated since like the prehistoric era. So it was like exciting for me to like, this is why I'm doing this. This is why I'm in the streets. This is why I'm on the apps for moments like these. But like, this is the fun stuff. So he's late for the date, considerably late. Like, I want to say like 45 minutes where like, I come out of my building thinking like, and he gets out of his car and he's wearing khakis. So that was great. Like he was dressed like Casual Friday in 1994. I'm all
look at her saying that's great. She's digging at him. She doesn't think he dressed up enough. And she's mad that he said what the dress code was and he's not dressed like that and they don't match. And she's not saying it, but she's saying rude. This woman is, particularly impossible to please and highly disagreeable.
Like skin tight, stuffed in, lashed. Okay, sure. Holiday party was at one of the partners in the law firm at his house. It's a really beautiful area at his big house. It was going to be catered, place cards, chef, the whole thing. We pull up to the house and it's dark. Dark. He's like, yeah, maybe the party's in the back. I'm like, okay. We get out of the car. We walk up to the house, knock on the door. Nobody answers. Now, I guess he knows this guy well, so he lets himself in because he's like, oh, maybe the party's like in another room. They can't hear us. So we walk in, dark in the house, except for a woman sitting on the sofa, bundled in a blanket, watching television. Jumps off the sofa and she's like, oh my God, greets him because she knows him. He knows her. He's the wife of the partner. And she said, nobody told you? And I'm like, oh my God. Nobody told you? We had to cancel. The kids were sick. They were supposed to call you. And he's like, no, nobody called you. So now she's like scrambling. So imagine that, like you're cozy on your sofa watching like Bravo. And he's like, jackass comes in with his khakis and like some slutty tall date from Tinder. Husband comes like stumbling downstairs and he's like, oh my God, they didn't call you. No, we've established nobody called us. That's why we're here. We're in your house. Okay? Nobody called us. So he's like, oh, I feel so bad. Can I offer you a drink? And I'm like, I just want to leave. Does Uber come out here? We just go to dinner. Let's go to dinner. I'm starving and maybe at least I'll get lucky. So we go to a restaurant, like 20 minutes away. We get there. The guys arranged to pay for dinner for us, which was really nice. So we sit there and we order food. And he looks at me. He's like, I'm not feeling too well. And I'm like, what's wrong? And he says, well, I haven't been taking my heart medicine. What does that mean? God's going to strike me down, by the way. I'm not mocking these guys for.
Okay. She just said God's going to strike her down because she is about to top herself on her lack of character and her shallow self. And this is where I lost my mind when I watched this. What was it? Tuesday or Wednesday? I put a community post up telling you guys because I was like, oh my God. Anyway, let's go.
For being broken. I'm not perfect. Okay. I have all sorts of all my own stuff. Like I'm not like, look, like this isn't like, supermodel physique, but I take care of myself. And I'm like, should we go to like an urgent care or to like an ER? And he's like, no, I just need to find like a CVS so I can take something in the interim. I said, how long has it been since you've taken your medication? He's like, a couple months. I'm like, cool. Does your doctor know this? He says, no, I'm supposed to take it every day. I said, okay. So we end up spending the next like 45 minutes with me on Waze trying to find a CVS that's open in the country. So I was back home in my apartment at 9:30 p.m. And by 9:45, I was sitting on the floor with my polenta fries in front of me and my lash strips on my coffee table. You've been warned.
The fact that she took pictures of all that stuff, like, what a terrible night for you. This man has some heart condition where he has medication for it. And for some reason, and I understand, sometimes you're taking medication for an ailment and that medication gives you other issues. So you don't take it. Or life happens and you have all these things that you have to do, and prioritizing your health maybe falls by the wayside for whatever reason. But oh no, it ruined her night. Oh no. She's sitting there with her, what did she say? Polenta, whatever she's sitting there with on her lash. Da, 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 da. But it gets worse because here she goes.
There are some wonderful guys out there and some wonderful women. Just remember that we are now going to encounter a lot of health things that we may not have expected. And I've got a lot more stories. I have a guy who the date had to get called short because he had gout. I have another guy who sustained a hip injury after sexy time. Another guy got a leg cramp and had to leave. I could go on. Again, the other advice was go younger, go younger. And I tried that for.
Okay. I'm a lot calmer now than I was the last time I saw this. She is saying that these older men are going to have these health issues because of course they are. They've been working their whole lives to please nightmares like you. And they're gonna have some health problems. And you are so intolerant. And you say, you have the nerve to say you take care of yourself. So what are you insinuating? That these men with health issues don't? That's not how it works all the time, sweetie. When you get older, we all start to fall apart. And I don't think they've all had the soft life you've had, ma'am. You've had it super, super easy. And now she says, go younger. Why? To avoid the health issues. You guys, I didn't know this when I was 22 and diagnosed with MS. I didn't know it. However, men generally do not leave their wives when there is a health problem, even a devastating one. They don't. However, the other way around is not true. The women leave the husbands who become disabled, who get a diagnosis, have some form of, any kind of disability. They're gone. This woman was never a wife, has no capacity to be one. She is so shallow. If the person has any kind of a defect at all, it's less than her. And she even said God would strike her dead for it. It's like, why don't you realize that what you're saying is wrong? Man, if she ever saw this, I would be like, come on my show. Let's have a chat. Let's have a little chat. Why don't you look me in my face and say that? Or would that just bring you down too much, ma'am? Would that be too depressing for you? I wouldn't trade it. I wouldn't take the MS away for anything because of this. Now, I had to be raised a certain way and have certain things in my life happen to where I responded to the MS the way that I did. But the idea that I could ever wind up like her with the the empathy of a sociopath. That is a nightmare to me. I would never want to be like that. That shallow, that heartless. And she doesn't know. She thinks she's healthy. She thinks she takes care of herself. It doesn't freaking matter. You don't know when a diagnosis is right around the corner for you, sweet cheeks. You don't know. Everybody can get injured. You can be in a car accident. Anyway. Okay.
For like 5 minutes, and the first guy that I matched with immediately was like, "Oh, you were in high school before I was born." And I was like, "Why would you say that to me?" So I will continue to share these tragic tales along with various pieces of wisdom and advice as you enter into this era of your life, or slowly come out the other side. I'm by no means a professional. I'm just a jackass who is also gently worn, and anyone who dates me is also, my boyfriend is thrifting with me, and I realize that. So just letting you know what's out there. So
she doesn't really think that. That's fishing for compliments. She doesn't really think her boyfriend's thrifting with her. She doesn't. She thinks she's a catch, and there's just so many wonderful things. She's saying that to have some kind of false humility. You cannot say everything you just said, lady, and then say, oh, my boyfriend's thrifting with me. You don't think that. You don't. Liar.
stay tuned for the next story. There's a lot more.
Do you ever notice how people think they're stepping into something better, only to find out they've walked straight into a mess? That's the reality a lot of women face when they leave long-term marriages, thinking the grass is greener on the other side. Especially for those over 50, it's a whole different ball game. And let me tell you, it's a zoo out here. I always tell people, if there's even a 10% chance of saving your marriage, work on it. Especially when you've been in that relationship for decades. Sure, marriage isn't always easy, but at this stage in life, you're better off nurturing the relationship you've invested years into. But here's the kicker. Some women ignore that chance. They convince themselves that they're missing out on something, like they'll find excitement or something better by walking away. Maybe they've been scrolling social media or talking to their single friends who paint a picture of freedom and fun. But let's be real. It's not as glamorous as they think. Out here, especially in the dating world past 50, it's a zoo. People are more set in their ways. There's more baggage, and the dating pool is, well, shallow. You're not stepping into a field of roses. You're more likely to find a jungle of red flags. Some women leave, thinking they'll meet someone who's going to fulfill all the dreams their ex-husbands supposedly didn't, only to be disappointed when they meet the same type of guy. Or worse, someone who only sees them as a temporary fling. There's a reason why they say the grass is greener where you water it. You can't walk away from 20 or 30 years of marriage and expect to find some magical new beginning. Relationships require work, and often, what's lacking can be fixed with communication, effort, and understanding.
Yeah, it can. And I know people don't like when I say that. They really get defensive about it, either because of their own parents or themselves. But it really does. It just depends on how willing you are to work and how willing you are to sacrifice, especially as the woman. You can make it work. You can find the joy. You can you can. But they don't. They choose not to. Whether there's a chance to save the marriage, what does that mean, save the marriage? It just means just don't leave. Just don't. That's it. And I know nowadays people are like, but how do you just make yourself happy? How do you just, you do. And you don't let yourself get that far away from it. And you don't ever expect it to come from elsewhere. Right? It doesn't. It comes from above. It comes from something greater than yourself. And a lot of people are going to be like, no, self-help this and self-help that. Yeah? How's that been going? What's the divorce rate like since we started doing all this self-help bullcrap? Is it helping? No, it's not. It's not. I'm sick and tired of women bailing on their marriages. When you can do the right thing, forgive things, know that you're not perfect, and learn to appreciate your husband and all the good things he does, because there are good things. If you can't see them, that's your fault. You've been focusing on the wrong things and you've been entitled. And no therapist is going to tell you that. They're going to tell you what you deserve and and all these platitudes and self-help mumbo jumbo nonsense. And like I said, how's that working for us? How's this? Oh, well, we get it from within ourselves, etc. How's that working for us? It's not. So before you tell me I'm too Little House on the Prairie, and I don't think the men would say that, I think it's more women that would say that. How's the other plan working for everybody? It's not. Look at society.
It's not about jumping ship when things get tough, especially when you're older. If you're over 50 and thinking about leaving your marriage, ask yourself, is the grass really greener, or is it
Nope.
just a mirage? Because
Yep.
from what I've seen, a lot of people end up wishing they'd never left in the first place. So if you've got that 10% chance of saving it, take it. It's better than stepping into the unknown, only to find out the zoo isn't all it's cracked up to be.
It's the first week that I am commuting.
So this is back to the beginning, right? So this isn't like after all this dating and her time in the streets. I can't believe she thinks that's cute. This is the beginning. I think this is the first post she made talking about right after divorce. Took me a second to kind of figure it out, but he put it on the end. It kind of makes it look like she's regretting everything, but this is before all that dating stuff. So it's not, she hasn't come to that point where she's actually realized what a mistake she's made. She hasn't come to that yet. And it'll probably she's going to have to be knocking on the door of 60 to maybe realize it. But at that point, it'll probably be just someone else's fault.
Into the city as an apartment dweller, not as a homeowner, not as a married woman, not as a woman with a kid at home. I lived in the city for a long time, but when I got married a million years ago, we moved out to the suburbs right outside of New York City and bought a house, and I lived in that house for 22 years. I got divorced and I moved out, and I've been living in an apartment. So I've been working remotely, and now the company that I work for has opened up a New York City office, and I'm going in 2 to 3 days a week. So this is only day 3, but I noticed, I'm like, something feels really different. And I realized, like, this is the only time in my life where I've commuted from the city back into Westchester and not come home to a house and not come home to a husband. I don't know how I feel yet.
I think you do. I think she knows how she feels. Look at her face. That's what all that in the streets was for. Cover this up. That'll smack her in the face, that when she made the decision and then she started coming home to an empty house. And isn't it sad, like, come home to your husband? Like, I'm sorry, but it should be the other way around. And I think that might be partly why this didn't work out. When you have a woman that has a career that she prioritizes, it means she's not prioritizing her family. And women will argue all day long about that and say, no, I'm doing both. No, you can't. You're prioritizing one over the other. It's just how it is. I'm sorry. I know you're told you can have it all, but you can't have it all. There are 24 hours in the day, and you can't be 100% mother, 100% wife, and 100% boss babe. This is where it ends up.
So I can go home and do whatever the fuck I want, which is cool and true, but I do miss coming home to someone. It'd be a lie to say that I didn't. I used to park in the garage over here and get in my car and drive to my house. What are we doing for dinner? What are we doing? Like,
this is a stage that I think they all go through. And it's the, oh crap, what have I done? I made a mistake. And I think the reaction to that questioning themselves is, nope, 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 nope. And here's why, and here's why. And talk to your girlfriends and just keep lying to yourself. Here is the truth. This is regret. All that other stuff in the streets, all these stories, the D pics, to cover up this pain that she's caused herself. Dumb.
Like, you're coming home to a family. And now I'm not. Now I'm coming home to my apartment. And it's just remembering, I guess, that it was nice to come home to a family. You get divorced, right? You don't have that anymore.
You get divorced. You don't have that anymore. Did it just fall from the sky? Accountability. Where are you?
And I think there's something about commuting back and forth that is like a reminder of that. Like, I don't want to say good or bad.
Good.
Like, not great, probably. And I've been thinking more about like what kind of content I want to post here. I think I'm going to do like a whole thing about my divorce and my decision to end it and the lead up to that and the telling and the announcing and the family and friends and dismantling a life.
Dismantling whose life? She's talking about her own life. I think you've dismantled some other people's lives, lady.
And finding a new place to live and all that fun stuff. So I may want to talk about that. I don't know if I'm ready to do it yet, but I was thinking that may have been helpful for me to watch as I was going through those things. So I don't know, stay tuned. But for now, I am working through this new experience of getting off a train, walking to my building, and not getting into my car and going to my house.
You know what's sad? When someone realizes too late that the grass wasn't greener on the other side. But by then, the damage is already done. Take this woman as an example. She walked away from a beautiful home, a loving husband, and a family. She thought she was missing out, that there was something better waiting for her out there. But now, she's not coming back to a home filled with love. She's coming back to a cold, empty, rented apartment. No family, no warmth, just loneliness. This is what happens when you don't value family. So many American women are caught up in chasing fantasies, thinking there's always something better than what they have. But what they don't realize is that the something better they're chasing is often a mirage. The sad reality hits when they're sitting alone, scrolling through their memories, missing the things they once took for granted. The loneliness sets in deep. She's not surrounded by loved ones. She's surrounded by four walls and the echo of her choices. No husband to greet her, no kids to come home to, just the emptiness of a rented space and the weight of regret. What's even more tragic is that she probably doesn't even know what she wants anymore. She gave up a life many would dream of, thinking the grass would be greener, and now she's realizing too late that it wasn't. She had it all, a beautiful home, a family, stability, but none of that mattered because she thought there was more out there. And now? Now she's living with the consequences. She's missed out on a life that could have been filled with love, laughter, and shared memories. The grass isn't always greener, and sometimes, by the time you realize it, it's too late to go back.
Oh, man. Okay. Need to watch that next one. All right, the pause. Are you paused? I don't know. The video that we just did will be that we just watched. The link to it will be in the description. So, like I said, at the end there, the voiceover is talking about she regrets it, but she doesn't yet, because that was before, right? Not yet. We're not there yet. It'll be when she can't cover up her mistake that she made when she was, coming home to an empty house and all the rest of it. And remembering that she covered all that up with all these dates and Hinge and Tinder and all of the apps and everything. She's covering all that up with all of these experiences and blah, 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 blah. all these lies she's telling herself. She's telling herself, I made a good decision. This is right. I'm just scared. I'm just this. I'm just that. She's just justifying all of it, making excuses. But when the attention finally goes away completely, because there are still men who will give her attention if she's available to them. They're not going to be the highest caliber guys. They're not going to be the guys with good character necessarily because they see her character. But when even they are not knocking on her door and the younger guys are sufficiently grossed out by her age, once she's 60 or whatever, and it's, the younger guys can't be like, I guess the lights can be off. I just want to, scratch an itch. Then what? What happens when you're 65? Who's gonna help you when you're taking medicine and when you have a health thing? Nobody. You run everybody off. Great lesson she's taught her kids. So, yeah, she's not there yet. It literally takes to where they can't actually lie to themselves anymore, to where they can't be in delusion. As long as they can keep the delusion going, then they'll keep lying to themselves and lying to the world and not realizing the mistake that they made. And even when they do realize it to themselves, I don't know how open they're going to be at admitting that. Because, it's a narcissistic tendency to never admit you were wrong. They might say how difficult the world was and how, what a hard time they had of it. Because that's the go-to. When in doubt, rather than, take accountability, create your, make yourself out to be a victim. That's the playbook. She wanted to know there was no playbook. Well, there's your playbook, chick. And we've all read it. And this is not new. We've seen this before. She just took it to another level, talking about the men are sick or they have health issues. And the way she just basically spit on them with that attitude, it's gross. Anyway. Right? And many of you probably saw your ex-wife just in there and had a little PTSD, and I apologize for that, but hey, when they tell you who they are, believe them. And they're very lacking in character and have an overabundance of entitlement. And that just does not make a wife. It doesn't even make a good date. So anyway, I hope your all's week is going well. I hope you're having a good Thursday. And I hope you're protecting your peace, protecting it against women like that. Wow. It's a reason to go your own way. I mean, look at it. Look at that. You don't want anything to do with that at any age. It's no good. It's not worth it. Not worth it. Feed your souls. It's very important. My little soul feeder back there, Lola, she's not there right now. She, please like the video, by the way, if you're still here. She messed up the blanket while we were watching the video, and I don't think you all could see her back there, but that's what she does when she wants attention. She's in rare form today. But anyway, she feeds my soul. She makes me smile on days when I feel like, but she's just cute. And, the sunrise this morning was beautiful. I took that in, appreciated the majesty of it. Little things like that, they matter, and you have to be intentional about it. But it really does help. Really does. So make a practice of it. Okay? I love you guys, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.